Let's talk about climate change. Climate change is affecting every country on every continent. The long-term changes in temperatures and weather patterns are referred to as climate change. In context, human activities have been the primary cause of climate change since the 1800s, mainly due to the combustion of fossil fuels such as coal, oil, and gas. When fossil fuels are burned, huge volumes of carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, are released into the atmosphere. Greenhouse gases trap heat and rise global temperature. Almost all of the rise in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere over the last 150 years has been caused by human activities. For example, the transportation sectors account for the majority of greenhouse gas emissions. The combustion of fossil fuels in cars, trucks, ships, trains, and planes is considered the primary source of greenhouse gas emissions from transportation. Moreover, climate change threatens food security, agriculture, and food production. It also limits food access and decreases nutrition and nutritional value. The nutritious value of crops is reduced when CO2 levels rise, while extreme weather-related calamities are becoming more often, affecting the crop production. To further elaborate, countries with high levels of hunger are typically vulnerable to climate change and have limited capacity to respond. Climate change has an impact on the global food chain, making those who are currently experiencing poverty, hunger, and malnutrition more exposed. Therefore, by the year 2030, one of the United Nations' top sustainable goal is to achieve zero hunger. As human beings, we all need food to survive. We deserve to have sufficient access to safe and nutritious food every day. How can we be healthy? The simple answer is by meeting the basic needs of the human person, where food is one of them. There are 4 dimensions of food security, which are availability, access, utilization, and stability. Food security exists when all people, especially the vulnerable, have easy access to good quality and quantity of culturally appropriate food to support their physical, spiritual, and emotional health. Based on a study by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, nearly 690 million people are hungry, or 8.9% of the world population, up by 10 million people in 1 year and by nearly 60 million in 5 years. If this current trend continues to rise, the number of people affected by hunger could reach 840 million by 2030. Thus, Sustainable Development 2 was established by the United Nations in 2015, end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. One of its goals is to eradicate hunger and ensure food access to all. According to experts, we are able to produce food for billions of people because of the technology we have today. However, food access around the world is not equally distributed. There are still areas found in the world where no sufficient access to food is one of their problems in their everyday lives. With this, people who are facing these kinds of problems suffer from food insecurity, wherein not all people can have easy access to sufficient healthy food. According to World Vision Australia, there are reasons why families, especially in the third world countries, do not have food security and safety. One of them is that they do not have the means to buy food for their families because of poverty. People also suffer from food insecurity because they do not have jobs to have enough income to provide basic needs for their families. With issues like this, food insecurity has been a major problem worldwide. In 2020, according to the United Nations, nearly 1 in 3 people in the world does not have enough access to food. That is already equivalent to 2.37 billion people worldwide. In the website of United Nations, undernourished people are mostly coming from Africa, Asian, and Latin countries, where most of them are classified as third world countries. There is the need for a global movement to end hunger around the world. According to Bailey 2017, research should be the priority right now in order to solve these major problems. Through research and studies by the experts, we could be able to find solutions in solving the problem with the helping hand of the government. If hunger still doesn't end globally, finding solutions through research will be more harder and costly, since there will be more damage to human, social, economic, and environmental aspects.
Identified the cause of the mysterious new virus.
Coronavirus.
Coronavirus.
There are fears a rapidly spreading virus has reached Australia.
This is a rapidly emerging situation where there is not a cause.
Everything has changed since the COVID-19 pandemic started. Many jobs have been removed as most of the businesses have closed, especially during the early stage of the pandemic. With this, the poor become poorer. Basic needs such as food cannot be sustained since there is no income. Avoiding COVID-19 and suffering from hunger became the major problems of poor families, especially in the Philippines during the pandemic. Hunger crisis became a major problem during the pandemic in the Philippines. However, Filipinos have found ways to help, especially the poor, to prevent this problem, which is through community pantries. Filipinos have been helping each other, especially the poor, to give everyone an access to food, where you can give food as much as you can to provide for the poor for free. With such efforts, the Filipinos have been able to contribute and fight the hunger crisis with the help of each other's hand during the pandemic. As we face problems in society, we should be able to find ways to help our community. We can learn from these community pantries that even such little efforts can have a huge impact on other people's lives. That even in difficult times, we should still contribute to helping our society. Food security should not just stop from tackling chronic hunger, because what is also relevant here is that a person should consider the nutrients from what he or she eats. Researchers studied that billions of people suffer from vitamin and mineral deficiency, where not all important nutrients are being distributed to the body because of the availability and access to food. Food safety is a scientific subject that explains handling, preparing, and storing food to avoid foodborne illnesses. Did you know? Food can also be a source of harm to a consumer. Hazards associated with food may include microbiological pathogens, naturally occurring toxins, allergens, intentional and unintentional additives, modified food components, and agricultural chemicals. Around the world, an estimated 600 million, almost 1 in 10 people, fall ill after eating contaminated food each year, resulting in 420,000 deaths and the loss of 33 million healthy life years. The first ever estimates of disease burden caused by 31 foodborne agents at global and sub-regional levels were presented in the 2015 WHO report on the estimates of global burden of foodborne diseases, highlighting that more than 600 million cases of foodborne illnesses and 420,000 deaths could occur in a year. Foodborne illnesses disproportionately affects disadvantaged group, particularly children under the age of 5, with the highest burden in low and middle income countries. Food safety in the Philippines is led by government agencies including Department of Agriculture, Department of Health, Department of Interior and Local Government, and the local government units. They are tasked to ensure the safety of food in the country. One of the common food safety problems in the Philippines are food poisoning and double dead meat or botcha. Hunger is not caused by food shortage alone, but by natural, social, and political forces. Extreme weather events like droughts become more common and affects harvests, leading to less food for human consumption. Climate change affects the livelihood of poor and rich, alike by impacting basic human needs, including food, clothing, and shelter requirements. According to POR and NEMESEC 2018, food accounts for over a quarter of global greenhouse gas emissions. The illustration shows from our World in Data.org the comparison between the global emissions between food and non-food items. POR and NEMESEC also provided a breakdown of the greenhouse gas emissions per kilogram of food product. The chart shows that the top contributor is the beef herd with 99.48 kg, followed by lamb and mutton and beef dairy herd with 39.72 kg and 26.87 kg respectively. Food safety is also affected by climate change. According to Kanemaru of the World Meteorological Organization 2009, food safety may also be compromised by degraded hygiene in preparing food under limited freshwater availability or food storage ability due to a warmer climate. The rapid change in climate variability has a direct impact on food production system stability. Increased frequency and the intensity of extreme events such as drought and flood have a huge impact on food security and safety. Furthermore, Food emergencies might also increase, resulting from increased competition for limited sources due to political conflicts and climate change. In the Philippines, the Community-Based Monitoring System or CBMS network team and the Food Agriculture Organization of the United Nations under the first phase, which lasted from 2012 to 2015, the researchers found that the significant increase or unstable rainfall or the extremely cold or extremely hot temperature would most likely lead to increased vulnerability to food security. To mitigate the impact of climate change on food security and livelihoods in the Philippines, the World Food Programme Philippines organized a high-level roundtable to discuss a new study that illustrates the impact of increasing climate change on food security and livelihoods on the final day of the World's Global Climate Summit, or COP26 in Glasgow. The World Food Programme, together with the Alliance of Biodiversity International and SIAT, launched the study entitled Climate Change and Food Security Analysis in the Philippines. The study aims to analyze the impact of climate variability and extreme hazards on the country's food security. What are possible ways to minimize the impact of climate change on food security and safety? According to Clausbach 2018, promoting good agricultural practices and investing in research and development are ways to tackle climate change and advance food security and safety. Promoting good agricultural practices not only helps tackle climate change but also increases the incomes of farmers. Practices such as crop rotation and drip irrigations raise yields, decrease production costs, and increase gross margins. These sustainable practices also have adaptive properties that allow farmers to reduce losses from extreme weather events, and mitigative qualities that lower greenhouse gas emissions. Investing in research and development is also one way to help mitigate the effects of climate change on food security and safety. Researching ways to create fast-maturing varieties that are more tolerant of drought, heat, pest, virus, disease, and saline can help with the issues surrounding food security and safety. As normal people and citizens, how can we help solve food insecurity?
First is avoid buying too much. Storing a lot of food in the household might seem a good practice, but it may lead to food waste if the household cannot eat all of the food.
Second is to think twice before throwing food away. Don't confuse the expiration dates and best before dates. If the produce or product still appears fresh and usable, it is usually fine to eat them.
Lastly, is to eat leftover food. Not only can it reduce food waste, but the household can save money when eating leftover rather than buying and throwing it away.
One huge way we can help solve food insecurity and eventually climate change is by reducing food waste. Reducing food waste in our own respective households is a good start in solving food insecurity. We believe that if you want to change the world, start with yourself.